This week, we talk about a fan conversion of one of the PlayStation's most iconic titles to the Mega Drive.
And we get another taste of Halo Infinite with a second beta. I'm Anthony.
And I'm Barry, and welcome to episode 38 of the Retro Gaming Dads podcast, the podcast for everything retro and retro-inspired. This is a bit of a brief episode this week, just while we carry on working on our Alex Kidd.
There's been a few little news and tidbits, and also we want to make sure that we can get as much news out as we can do, so we thought we'll do a little bit of an episode in between, ready for coming up towards Alex Kidd.
Yes, we've got an episode that is entirely full of just games, and more games. No hardware, and definitely no TV.
It's not often that we don't mention sort of hardware or TV, but yes. It's nice to just do some game news, especially because, again, as much as we are retro and we try and focus on retro, a lot of it sometimes isn't a lot of retro, but this is a lot of retro in it.
Oh, yeah. This is absolutely entirely retro.
But in regards to, before we get into this, have you been up to play much this week?
I've been playing The Ascent. That's on Game Pass. And that's actually it. That's all I've played.
Yeah, I hopped on and played it with you. Quite enjoyed it.
Killed a few civilians.
A few? Of course. I found out that is the civilians you kill the most.
Well, they shouldn't have made any sudden movements. You know, I get a bit twitchy on the trigger.
The amount of times I'll see a civilian just running around and all of a sudden Barry just go, boop, shoot him.
I'm sure he had a knife or something on him. It's fine. Right. Anyway, let's get into the games.
Yeah, sure.
So, first up, we've not talked about a Kickstarter in a little while. Have you seen Good Boy Galaxy?
No, I've not seen it. This is the first I've seen it, really, in regards to the show notes here we've got.
The best I can describe what it looks like to me is Metroid, but you're a good boy. You're a really good boy. Yes, you are. Yes, you are. You're a little puppet in a spacesuit.
You could have made it sound more condescending if you tried, could you?
Yes, I could. Yes, I could. This looks like quite a nice little run and gun platforming style game. However, the reason this is kind of popped up on a lot of people's radar is the proposed target systems for it. It's coming to Steam, which is a given for a lot of Kickstarter games.
Yeah.
It's coming to the Switch, which is uncommon, but it is also coming to the Game Boy Advance.
That's one part when I read it, I was a bit surprised.
Yes.
Why is it coming to the Game Boy Advance? Switch, I can understand Switch. Steam, obviously because Steam's such a massive platform for games, but why the Game Boy Advance? The Game Boy Advance has been out.
I believe the last commercial game was released in 2007.
And that explains it all. So why are they...
In all fairness, we've talked about a lot of Game Boy and Game Boy Color games getting released recently. Like only a week or so ago, we were talking about Infinite. That's coming to the Game Boy Color. So why don't we give the Game Boy Advance some love?
Maybe you're right. Maybe you do need to give the Game Boy Advance a bit more love. But I think it's odd for them to be released on such an old console. It is odd. It's not often that they would do that. But what has intrigued me so far, I'm having a quick look at some of the artwork and everything else. It looks quite fun. It looks like a fun little game. But I understand that aside from all of this, it's smashed through its target and needed on Kickstarter.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it went to Kickstarter, asked for a rather small amount, £18,000. As of recording this, it's up to £158,000, and it's still got 15 days remaining.
That's ridiculous.
And if anyone does want a physical copy of this, they will be doing Switch and Game Boy Advance physical copies for £44 each, which isn't the worst price, to be honest.
No, for a Switch game, it's quite cheap. But looking at it, it's very pixel art, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's really nice pixel art.
Yeah.
Bear in mind though, the Game Boy Advance only has a certain resolution that it can actually hit.
Yeah.
And I'm sure it's something low, like somewhere around about 240 by 160 or somewhere around that.
I think it looks quite good.
Yeah, it looks really good. But honestly, seeing a new game coming to the Game Boy Advance in 2022 is, well, surprising. Could you imagine this when the DS came out and people said, oh yeah, do you know what? If you hang on another 14 years, we'll go get another Game Boy Advance game.
No chance.
Hey, speaking of which, you can also play it on your DS and DS Lite.
Oh, yeah.
There is actually a demo that you can play in your browser on your computer. So you can give it a go if you want. You can also purchase the ROM of the title. So if you've got anything like a EverDrive style flash cartridge for your Game Boy Advance, you can actually put it on there and play it on real hardware as well, but still support them.
That's very cool.
Mm-hmm. Moving on to Sega, have actually re-registered some trademarks for, at this point, really old titles. So 2 Mega Drive titles and a Sega Saturn title. The 2 Mega Drive titles I'm actually familiar with. I've played both of them. So one of them is Ranger X, which many people consider to be the best looking Mega Drive title.
Okay.
Don't know if I go that far, but it's definitely a really good looking one. It's a run and gun shooter where you're in like a mech suit, but you also have a bike that follows you around. So you can stand on it, navigate around, or you can fly off and it'll follow you about the stage. The other game is Crusader of Senti, which over here was called Salil. Essentially Sega's take on the old Legend of Zelda, like a Link of the Past style games.
Okay.
And also has a cameo from a certain blue hedgehog sunning himself on a beach. But no, I enjoyed that game when I played it. I really wish I'd purchased that game when I originally played it, because it's one of those games that's gone up an awful lot in price.
I'm surprised you didn't, because Sonic was in the game.
Well, it was only when I started collecting Sonic games. It's like, I've got every game on the Mega Drive which has got Sonic on it. So I'll start getting games with Sonic in it. So I got, I think it was called like Art. I've got it in the loft. Like Artscape or something like that.
Yeah.
It's an art program and Sonic's a stamp in it. So I just got it for that reason. And then I went to buy this and it was like, nope, too much. And I wish I even bought it at that point, because now it's like, nah, it's even more. The third title, though, I'm not familiar with at all, called Linkleliver Story. This appears another top-down RPG, and it looks quite interesting. You're like some sort of fox-human hybrid, running around collecting gems and orbs. But again, it was a Japanese exclusive for the Sega Saturn, so we never got it over here.
Well, not surprising. I've not played any of these games. Seems as though until I met you, I'd never played a Mega Drive, and I'd only played the Sega Saturn once. So,
oh dear, can't even believe I'm friends with you then. The big news isn't necessarily that they're re-registering the trademarks for these titles, because it's a bit strange. It's not as if these are like Sonic the Hedgehog or Streets of Rage, a more popular series that they might be perhaps bringing out a compilation for or something similar. But the fact that they're bringing a Sega Saturn game is quite big, because there's been very few of them ported away from the Sega Saturn originally.
Okay. The thing is, though, obviously, a lot of these retro games and older games, they're not really played anymore unless you have the console to go with it.
Yeah.
And unless you got the money to buy it. So why don't they bring it back, put them on your consoles, like the Switch, like onto Steam? Because, again, it just brings a new fan base towards the game and a newfound love for the game, won't it?
And the thing is, these are games that are already made, so there's only a limited amount of money that Sega need to spend to bring these games out.
Yeah,
it'd be interesting if they do come out. If it does come out, I'd like to play through Salil again. It was a good game, and I know many people who absolutely loved Ranger X as well.
There's one to look out for, because it might be coming soon, or remakes or whatever might be making an appearance.
Yeah, hopefully if it does, it'll come to more than the Nintendo Switch, because I don't want to be buying a digital title on Nintendo Switch to then potentially lose it within the decade.
Also, you want on the Xbox so you can get achievements.
Yeah, achievements are always good. Well, while we're talking about Mega Drive games, let's sidestep into a demake of a title for the Mega Drive.
Very interesting one this is.
So, one of the most well-known 2D games on the PlayStation is Castlevania Symphony of Night.
If people have listened to our podcast previously, you would know that we played this game as one of our Retro Gaming Club games.
Yes.
It wasn't long ago that we played it and went through it all together. Yes, it was actually. It was the very first title we did for our Retro Gaming Club.
Yeah. People who've played it know it's a very large RPG that probably was the beginning of the Metroidvania sort of titles.
Yeah.
Now, someone has taken it on themselves to actually convert this back to the Sega Mega Drive or the Genesis. And to be honest, it does not look anywhere near as bad as I would have expected.
No. I kind of think, why did they do it? Because there's no need to do it. But they've done a really good job in the fact that how limited the Mega Drive was compared to the PlayStation.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's miles apart between the two consoles. Even the Sega Saturn, which is kind of like the contemporary to the PlayStation, had a really bad port of this title. What you might not know is, have you ever heard of a 32X?
Yes.
Yes.
I've heard of it. That's it.
So it was an attachment that attached to the Mega Drive that turned it into a 32-bit machine.
Yeah.
One of the titles that was being made for it was Castlevania Symphony of Night.
Okay.
So it was actually designed for this add-on for the Mega Drive. However, Sega done a terrible job. In Japan, I actually think the add-on for the Mega Drive came out after the Saturn came out. So it was supposed to be a stopgap until the Saturn came out, and it came out after the Saturn. And it didn't do any better elsewhere in the world, to be honest. So eventually this title then got pushed onto the PlayStation and did get a conversion to the Saturn eventually. So it going back to the Mega Drive isn't as crazy as it initially seems. Now, this person's only done a few areas, and I think they're doing this as more of a
hobby, see how it goes.
Yeah, a hobby, but also so that they can develop the programming skills. So whether or not it ever gets finished, I don't know. Now, they've done a title screen, introductory screen, character select. So they've got Alucard and Maria. The video that's up online, Alucard has quite a bit of animation in him, which I was really surprised because apparently his run animation has 30 frames of animation. Now, most games at the time probably had 5, if they were really well animated, like Earthworm Jim, maybe 15 frames of animation, somewhere around there. So 30 frames of animation is insane, and I think he managed to get it all running on the Mega Drive.
I'm taking him quite a bit of time to get sorted.
Yeah. Well, his original video was actually put up in April, but he's done like an update to it, just showing some of the title screen and the character select screen bits. Obviously, we'll leave a link to the videos in the show notes. So if anyone wants to go and have a look, subscribe and follow it, then obviously they can. I know I definitely will be.
What surprised me is we've got some pictures of the model characters. With the characters, with Alucard and Maria, I can't tell the difference between the PlayStation and the Mega Drive version. There is one creature on there as well, which I can only just slightly tell the difference, and I think that's only because they're side by side.
If I'd seen any of those sprites isolated on their own, I wouldn't go, "Oh, that looks wrong." It's doesn't look like it's on the PlayStation.
No, not at all.
Now, side by side, that creature you're on about, I can tell like around its lips, instead of being a pinkish color, it's more of an orangey color because the Mega Drive does have a much smaller palette than the PlayStation does.
Yeah.
But no, if that was in a game, I wouldn't even blink at it. It looks perfectly playable.
It does, and I'm impressed by it, not gonna lie.
I'd be interested to see if he ever finishes it. It does look like he's going to make it more of a linear game rather than an exploration game, though, if he does finish. I'll be following it, and I'm sure once Phil sees it, he'll be following it as well. He needs more Castlevania Symphony of Night in his life.
He's not got enough in his blood.
Yeah, they could downport this to something like the Atari 2600, and he'll still play it.
Yeah, he can't get enough of it.
Well, let's drag ourselves out of the 90s and put us into modern day. So
I know.
One that you're getting excited about.
I cannot wait for. Unfortunately, I missed out on the test flight that it did earlier. Last month, was it? But they've now announced the next Halo Infinite beta that's coming out on the 24th of September.
Yep. You've just signed up for this, haven't you, to make sure that you get your place in?
I did, yes. So I don't want to miss it. So quickly did it just before the podcast started. We spoke about this the other day because as soon as we saw it, we were speaking about it. I was like, I need to do it. Made sure to do it now. And I'm really excited for it, especially because it's going to be a big team battle version, which, as you know, I love the big team battle. It's my favorite game type.
Is it actually going to be a big team battle?
I'm pretty certain I read it was going to be. This is where I'm wrong now.
I just saw the date. That's as far as I got. I was like, more Halo, I'm in. That's all I need to know.
But because I thought this was going to be load testing, so I'm pretty certain it will be.
Right.
Because last time was just 4-on-4, and not really testing as much as it.
No, just getting trolled by the AI.
Just taking the mic. Oh, that's the thing. I want to fight against the AI and see how much they ridicule me.
Yeah.
Apparently, you said about, I don't know if you mentioned it, but you know how you said about it looked like the AI was teabagging.
Oh yeah, Bungie have come out and Bungie. What am I on about? 343 have actually come out and said no, they're not teabagging yet. It just looks like the teabagging yet.
Yeah, for some reason I don't believe that.
Yeah, well, see, I've heard that they use machine learning to get around the map better and find better ways to engage with players and that in a more realistic way. So I'm wondering if people start just teabagging the AI every time it kills, it goes, oh,
yeah,
right, this must be the human custom.
So you're saying future down the line where they're using AI technology in the field, they'll go and...
I can just imagine after Judgment Day, like T-800s, they're shooting all the rebels aliens and the resistance, and then running up to the corpses and teabagging them. And this is how the machines took over.
Teabagging us all.
They learnt our weaknesses. Teabagging.
But yeah, no, I'm really looking forward to this. I'm really excited for Halo Infinite. I can't wait for it.
Sorry, just really quickly. I actually had quite a awkward conversation with Kerry when she was when she was going, "What's teabagging?" I was like,
I don't know if Esther knows. Maybe I should mention it, see what she says.
I was going to say it's probably best if you don't. Yeah, I can't wait for this, and I can't wait for the actual game release, beginning of December. So, the only thing that's got me down is that I can't get one of the limited edition Halo Xboxes. Damn
Not
scalpers.
on the Xbox. I would have liked just the controller.
Well, yeah. In all fairness, I don't think you can get the standard Halo controller. I've not seen it advertised anywhere.
No.
So I think it only comes with the console.
Darn you, scalpers.
Yep. You know, maybe I will drop. I saw some of them going for asking for £2,000 for the console.
Sounds reasonable.
Yeah. That sounds reasonable. It wouldn't surprise me if they actually stripped out the game and the controller and it was just the console or something. Right.
Before we get stuck in this rabbit hole, which we quite often do about scalpers, Pipe Hacker has given us even more games to play with.
Yeah, and this is the gift that just keeps on giving.
They've just chucked quite a few in as well. Yeah,
so quite a few Data East titles, actually. A lot of arcade. Just before this podcast, I went through and played most of them. Maybe for a bit longer than I should have. And it's nice to see more titles coming to Pipe Hacker. At the moment, I very quickly counted, and it looked like they had about 80 titles.
Okay.
When we initially tried it out, was it about 40?
It's about to, I think it's about 40.
Yeah, so roughly 80 titles. I might be out by like 2 or 3. New titles that have just come out is, first one was Heavy Smash. It reminds me of a mix of football, dodgeball, and Rocket League. That's the best way I can describe it.
It sounds just like handball. Just a bit different.
I was playing it, and when I threw the ball, I threw it so hard that the goalie caught it, but it just smashed the goalie into the goal, which then exploded.
Wait, what?
So I threw the ball.
That sounds like
goalie
those sort of
caught
movies
it,
where
but it dragged the goalie back into the goal, and the goal exploded.
that just reminds you of like when you watch these movies where people like pelt a football and hits the guy, and the guy goes launch into the goalpost just like that, but the game is dead.
Yeah, just the explosion on top of it at the end, though. That just sold it to me. I'm guessing you've never played Speedball.
No.
For anyone who's played Speedball, especially on like the Amiga or the Mega Drive, it feels like a very energetic version of that.
Okay.
So you can pass the ball to your other players, or you can actually throw it against the side of the arena, and bounce it around, a bit like in ice hockey. But no, that's a good one to play. So that's an arcade game, and that's 2 players.
I'm glad there hasn't more 2-player stuff. I was going to go through the rest of the list in a minute, but I'm just sad there's no 3 or 4-player games.
Yes, all the titles that are shown as new are all either single player or 1 to 2 players.
Magic Drop 2 sounds interesting.
It's a puzzle game. It's kind of like Bubble Bobble. So you have like a group of coloured balls at the top of the screen, and it keeps adding new lines, so it's coming lower and lower. Once it hits the bottom, that's it, you've lost. What you can do is you can pull down a bubble, hold it, and throw it back up. So say if you pull down a blue, you can then move over to a group of blue, throw it up, it'll pop them, and if they're holding up any other colours, they'll drop down, you'll get bonus points.
Yeah, there's quite a few games that do sort of thing where you normally launch the ball up or something.
It gets quite frantic. The only issue, though, is, as far as I'm aware, this is Japanese language only.
Okay.
You can perfectly play the game, even though it's in Japanese. However, navigating through the menu to get to things like multiplayer, story mode, one-off, survival, things like that, that's what I had an issue with, just getting through the menus. But apart from that, it's a nice game to have, another puzzle game, different from what else is on there.
Yeah, because the majority are just either side-scrolling shooters or
PlayStation 1 era football games.
Yeah.
The next title is The Cliffhanger, Edward Randy. I first thought that was describing what the guy was like, but it's actually his name. So this game didn't really like. I only played 2 stages of it, and both of them you were on a biplane and you have to jump from plane to plane as it's rocking back and forth, punching and whipping. I don't know, I'm going to say the Nazis. I don't know. It reminded me of Indiana Jones, so I just assumed the
Wait, so you're saying you didn't love the fact you had to jump between aeroplanes and hit people and it wasn't realistic?
No, it was just too samey. Also, when the plane banked or tilted, I'm sure there's a technical term for that, I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, banking.
Instead of using your whip, you'd only be able to punch unless you pressed a different direction on the attack button. So it didn't seem consistent on what moves you'd do. And you could jump. Say you jumped and you missed the plane, you could whip and whip onto it and swing around onto it. I don't know. I just didn't really like it. The first boss as well just seemed a bit spongy, to be honest.
Okay.
I'm sure someone out there will like it. And it's not a bad game. It's just I didn't like it. Again, more games, though, on the service, the better.
Night Slashes, is that some sort of fighting game, I'm guessing?
Yeah, so Night Slashes is a side-scrolling brawler, like, say, Streets of Rage, except you're fighting a lot of zombies, and anyone who is a zombie, when you kill them, their face melts off, and anyone who isn't a zombie, when you kill them, their face melts off.
What?
There's a lot of face melting in the game.
Melting off?
I don't know. I think it's the first boss or mini-boss, can't remember, is a scientist. And you're like, oh, he's experimenting on people. Second, his energy goes. His face just melts off the skull, and he just collapses into a pool on the floor. Quite gory, but a little bit over the top. It lacks a bit in diversity of moves. So you have a special move that clears the screen.
Okay.
What I didn't realise is it takes like a third of your health to use it. Plus, you also have to have a token for it as well.
So you're nearly killing yourself to do it.
Yeah, then you have a special move, which takes health to do, which usually just hits the enemies all around you, if you get like cornered or surrounded.
So, yeah.
And then on top of that, you have like a punch, a jump kick, and a throw. That's pretty much it.
Okay.
Seems all right. Maybe in 2-player it'd be quite a bit better, but you can definitely tell it's an arcade game and it's designed to just take your money. I think its second boss was demonic Pinocchio. I was like, oh, it's Pinocchio. He picked me up, suplexed me into the ground, and took half my health off in one move. I was like, all right, okay then. That's what I get for underestimating you. But game has 3 characters. A female ninja, has a guy with big robotic arms, and then it just has some other guy who seemed a little bit out of place. Nothing was memorable about him. I can't remember much, to be honest.
So the game didn't make much sense, is what you say?
Well, it doesn't have to make sense. For a start, everyone's face melts off. Yeah, well, my biggest takeaway from playing the game was people's faces melt off.
But that's the thing, though. In the show notes, you've literally put in here lots of melting faces.
Well, yeah, obviously it's the biggest takeaway I had. No, maybe it's one. Maybe it's one for us to try in 2-player one day.
Yeah, I might have to give it a go.
So the last data release title was Street Hoop, which I looked at and went, nah, sports game, and didn't play. I'll be honest.
Game.
Yeah, it's a 2-player sports game, and I haven't actually tried that out.
No, I know you don't have sports games, so I understand that one.
Yeah. Now, going on to some of the console games that came. So, Clay Fighters is on there, which technically is an impressive game for the time. So, it uses stop motion. So, do you know the way Mortal Kombat took pictures of real people for the first couple of games and digitized them? Similar thing to this, but it's stop motion models that they use to actually do the animation.
Okay.
I didn't play it while it was on PiePacker. However, playing it a very long time ago, I was not impressed. It didn't play very well at all.
Might not be for everyone to enjoy.
No. However, next title, Prehistoric Man, is actually a really good platformer.
Okay.
Play a little caveman and just go on all your little adventures. However, this is only single player.
That's a shame.
So, another single player title on PiePacker for you there. Going on to more recent titles, we have 2 PlayStation games.
Now, I feel like Murder Death Kill. I feel like I've heard that from you and Phil before.
MDK? Yeah, possibly. I played this on the Dreamcast, which as far as I'm aware... Or was it the PC? Anyway, I played on either PC or Dreamcast, and as far as I'm aware, it's the same game as the PlayStation, just a little bit prettier. They did do a sequel, and it's a bit of a weird one. You're in like this black suit with like a cone for a head, and it transforms depending on what you need. So your arm transforms into a machine gun, or if you need to glide, the back opens up into like a bit of a parachute.
Okay.
It reminds me a lot of like Aliens, like the sort of style of the world. As in the actual aliens themselves, not like the Alien movie as a whole.
Okay.
But it's quite a good little action game. Definitely worth a play.
The Streak Hoverboard Racing. I'm guessing that is just hoverboards racing.
I didn't play this one, didn't have time. From the little video, it reminded me a lot of Tony Hawk's, to be honest. But on hoverboards.
Yeah.
I could be completely wrong with that one, though. But this is another 2-player game. So, again, maybe one day we can jump on and have a little go of it, see what it's all about.
And this why not?
Now, the last one is Sydney Hunter and the Caverns of Death, which is the most generic name I've ever heard. It's the Caverns of Death.
Oh, no.
This is another single-player game, and... this actually reminds me of a game I used to have on the Commodore 64 called, I think it was Rick Dangerous. So you're like a little Indiana Jones style character going through temples and that and trying not to die. Now, this is actually, although it's a SNES game, is actually a relatively recent SNES game. I think it was from 2018.
Oh, what? So much like the other games just being released, they just released a game for the SNES back in 2018.
Well, they done this with Micro Mages. That was a NES game that was relatively recent. I think it was like 2017-ish.
Okay.
Something like that. So, it's nice to see a bit more diversity of games. It's a game that was never originally released for the SNES. So
It's nice to see that they're still adding even more to the Pie Packer servers as well.
Oh, yeah. On top of that as well, I might have missed this the last time we talked about Pie Packer when some other games got released, because there was some Game Boy Advance games on there. But I have now noticed that the Bring Your Own Game section allows you to bring Game Boy Advance, Game Boy, NES, SNES, and Mega Drive games.
Okay.
Again, if you don't like anything that's actually on the service, you can chuck your own ROM onto there, legally acquired ROM, I'm sure.
Yep.
And play multiplayer with a friend.
That's why not.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Be able to put a game on that's however many years old, having to always do 2-player. It could be that you used to have games nights with your friends when you were younger. They've moved away. Pie Packer is a great place to pick up that game you used to play with them and rekindle that and do multiplayer with them.
Well, yeah, last year, me and Phil tried to actually use another service to play Cyborg Justice. However, the lag was just too much for us to actually play. We could chuck the ROM into here and use this to play it online. Or even the three of us, we could play something like Secret of Mana.
Yeah.
So we could go through that as a free-player RPG. So, yeah, I'll have to try the other games that I didn't get a chance to play before this podcast. See what I like. And I look forward to seeing more new titles.
No, it will be nice. And I've quite enjoyed the news we've had this week, because it is a lot of retro news we've had.
And then just sneaking Halo Infinite in the middle of it all.
We've got to sneak in something to do with Microsoft, don't we, every time?
Yeah, well, as we say, it's retro and retro-inspired. So Halo now is a retro game. So Halo Infinite is inspired by a retro game. Can you get away with that? And failing that, we just like Halo, so...
Well, failing that, we just like talking about games we like.
Yeah. Well, I think that's everything for this episode. So have you got anything else to add?
No, I'm pretty certain we've covered everything. I said I think I've quite enjoyed this news week we've had. Even though there's a little short stopgap between this and Alex Kidd. I'm sure we'll be getting Alex Kidd on soon. Yeah,
we just need you to hurry up and complete it. I've completed it twice in the time it's took you to get stuck wherever you are.
In all fairness, playing this game, let's just say I'm glad I've got a cushion next to me to hit. So frustrating. I like to throw my controller down to like, well, whatever, I've had enough.
Well, with that, thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.
Cheers, see ya.